Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I am Dustin. This is the show where we're looking at the most active stocks on Yahoo Finance. We're about to look at PLTR, better known as Palantir. Now, one of the things I will say about Palantir that I have not really respected nor paid attention to, and I am not afraid to admit this, I had no idea that this thing would become such a mooner, that this thing was going to go from $10 to 55, and it was going to be so much fun for everybody who was in between that price. Now, when we look at what's gone on specifically inside of Palantir, what I love to see is that it's come off of this green background with the black lettering. In my model, that means it's in a standard deviation range. When you're seeing the red lettering with the white background, that means it's three standard deviations above its mean. Now, same thing exists for the volume. The volume yesterday was over 208 million shares traded, and we saw a gigantic move. Yesterday was up 23%. Today it's up 8.6%. What I love is that over 5 days it's up 27%, over 15 days it's up 32%, over 1 month it's up over 28%, over 3 months it's up over 82%, and over 6 months it's up over 156%. Now, when we are looking at the type of moves that you'd expect to see inside of a stock, which is going to be put into the S&P 500, don't usually expect it's going to have not one, but two gap up days. Now, especially, I'm not sure if earnings were phenomenal, fantastic, or not necessarily what we expected, but I can tell you that there was some sort of catalyst here. I have no idea what it was. I don't know if it's a big deal, but I can tell you that the market is reacting to it very, very positively. Now, we're looking at the signals. We have a go long in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term. We're looking at the trend. We are turning bullish in the short term, intermediate term, and we are already bullish in the longer term. When we are looking at the overall rolling sentiment, you can see that we have a falling bear. We're actually, what I love about this is that we're right in the middle of the range in terms of bullishness and bearishness. And why that's a big deal is because this indicator generally wants to stay around 50%, but it can get as high as 60% and it can get as low as 40%. Generally, that's where it'll start to reverse and start to do some mean reversion. Now, when we look at what's going on in Palantir, I'm not sure what the actual catalyst is, but I can tell you right now that we've got a lot of bullish signals. They're incredibly highly correlated to each other. And when we look at the overall bull key three or the bear key three, we've got a mixed bag, but then you just have to fall back on price. The reason why you have to fall back on price is because my model, which I will admit, is not great when you're going to see these massive moves in terms of a gap. The reason why is because it's going to reset, because it's more of a Bayesian model. I don't think you know what that means, but you can look it up on the internet because you probably have ChatGPT open right now. When we're thinking about this, we saw a gap from what was it, $40 up to $50, up to 50 something dollars. Now, that is difficult for any model to be able to handle because you're going to essentially reset the range. We're going to see it when we look at my overall trade ranges later. But what we're seeing inside of Palantir, and if we look at it with correlation, it's got a negative correlation to the VIX. The VIX is starting to fall, which I'd love to see. Risk is back on, baby. The correlation to the dollar went positive today, even though it's been relatively negative. And the reason why this is crazy too is that it went positive today. And I say this because when you saw that stocks were up, rates were up, gold was down, everything was up. The dollar had a ridiculous day. The dollar actually had a gap up itself, which makes me blown away when you think about what stocks did. The fact that the dollar got stronger and stocks went up is like so counterintuitive. But that's why when you're thinking about seeing, that's why when we're thinking about seeing what we saw inside of, and I can just put, what I'm going to do is put Palantir right here. When we start thinking about what we saw inside of Palantir, I love that Palantir had a positive day against the dollar because it's flipping. Because if the dollar is going to rise, Palantir is going to rise, is what it's telling us. So if we get back to Palantir here, and the reason I'm showing you how to be able to, how I do this is because I think it's important for everyone to be able to build their own model. I think if the data is going to be free, you should be free. Don't be afraid to create your own model. Everyone can do it. Now, if we look at the actual chart here, again, keep talking about these gap ups, quite remarkable. I keep talking about the daily sentiment. This thing is just breaking up above 56%. I'm looking at the overall volume. What a great, I mean, the volume that you saw on 920 was remarkable. The volume that you've seen over the past 2 days has been fantastic. Now, if we're looking at what is happening in the volatility, what I love is that the volatility is falling off of a cliff and the correlation is falling off a cliff as well. Now, you'd think that'd be bad, except for when you have one negative and you have two negatives. What do two negatives make? A positive. So this means that the price is going to go generally sideways to up. It may stagnate for a little bit because the move has been so remarkably high. I mean, look at this. You had a really natural trade range that was going and just kind of like sideways and up, and then you get this massive explosion to the upside. Palantir is making people rich. It is buying Lambos and it is killing the shorts. Now, if we look at the overall ultra sentiment, I think that we still have much higher to go. But again, as I mentioned with my model, it has trouble when you have a major gap up. I want to look at the weekly data real quick because this, I mean, just the moves that we've seen inside of Palantir have been insane. Again, the move off of 5,523 was really the beginning of what is this bullish move. You would have needed to hold on this entire time, but this thing has been fucking nominal. I mean, when I go ahead and just think about it, I would say I'm probably going to be long. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go, subscribe to the New High newsletter. Okay, we send you 25 stocks to your inbox every single Sunday. Stocks bring out between $5 and $20. Stocks bring out to 1 year highs. Stocks bring out to all time highs. It is a great list to get your trading week started. I'll talk to you soon.